I never thought something like that could happen to me. I wasn't careless. I didn't walk around late at night. I didn't talk to strangers. I always locked the doors. I did everything I was told women should do to stay safe. And still, it happened. My name is Claire. I'm 27 years old. I was kidnapped, and I live to tell the story. It began quietly. The kind of day you forget until it becomes the last normal one. I had just moved back to my hometown, Silver Pine, a small forest town in Oregon. It smells like pine and rain. People leave their keys in their cars. Everyone waves at each other. It's the kind of place you'd never expect something terrible to happen. My parents were away for the season, down in Florida. I was staying at their house, just outside of town, near Brooklake Road. That road cuts through heavy woods and ends near a reservoir. Most people say it's peaceful. My dad always thought it was too isolated. I like the quiet. I had just left Portland after 2 hard years. Here, I could hear the birds again. I could sleep. I started cooking real food instead of microwaving frozen dinners. I painted. I read. I walked. That week, I had started jogging. Nothing serious. Just a couple of miles every other day. I'd go around 4 p.m., down Brooklake Road to the curve, then turn around. That Tuesday was overcast. I remember the sky being low and heavy. I put in my earbuds, turned the music low so I could still hear things around me, and started my run. The same old trees, the same leaning mailbox, the same little red reflector I always used as my halfway point. Then I noticed something new. A gray car parked ahead on the shoulder. It wasn't running. No one was inside. All doors closed. I thought it was probably someone out hiking. I slowed a little, but kept running. As I passed the car, I did what most women do. Looked through the driver's window just long enough to make sure it was empty. It looked empty. I ran on. About 5 minutes later, I saw it again. Same car. This time parked ahead of me, on the opposite side of the road. I froze for a second. Looked behind me. Nothing. I hadn't heard anything. No engine. No tires on gravel. My stomach tightened. I turned off my music. My hands felt cold. I turned back toward town. I didn't run. I walked fast. My heart was pounding. I kept telling myself it was nothing. Just a weird coincidence. But I checked behind me constantly. Every small sound made me jump. When I reached my driveway, the car was gone. That night, I locked every window and door. I checked the garage. I left the porch light on. I put my phone under the pillow and kept a flashlight next to the bed. The next day, I didn't run, but I did go outside. I needed to prove to myself that I wasn't just being paranoid. That's when I saw it. In the mailbox. No envelope, no stamp, just a single photograph of me, running, taken from behind, probably during my last jog. You could see my ponytail midair, my foot about to hit the pavement. Trees blurred in the background. There was no note, nothing written, just the photo. I didn't sleep that night either. The next morning, I called the police. I told them about the car, the photo, where I lived. An officer came by later that afternoon. He was polite, said they'd keep an eye on the area, suggested I stay indoors for a few days. But he didn't take the photo, didn't ask how it was taken, didn't look for prints, didn't even make a copy. I should have insisted. I should have done more. But deep down, part of me didn't want to believe it was serious. Just a creep, just a warning, not a real threat. But it was, because 2 days later, I disappeared. I woke up in total darkness. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what time it was. Everything felt wrong. My head hurt badly. My mouth was dry. My arms were behind me. My wrists were tied together, and my ankles too. The tape or rope was tight. My skin felt raw where it touched me. I couldn't see anything, not even a bit of light. I tried to move and felt cold concrete under me. The air smelled like damp basement walls, like mildew and something else, something metallic. Blood, maybe. My mouth tasted strange. I realized my lip was split. I didn't know how I got there. The last thing I remembered was being in my parents' house. I just made tea. I was going to read. Then, nothing. Now this. I tried to scream, but my throat felt hoarse and dry. It came out as a scratchy whimper. My body felt heavy. I rolled onto my side, trying to sit up, but it hurt too much. I didn't know how long I stayed like that. Minutes? Hours? It could have been a whole day. I had no sense of time. There was no window, no sound, nothing to anchor me. Eventually, I heard something. A door far above me creaked open. Then footsteps. Slow, one step at a time. They echoed down what must have been a staircase. My whole body tensed. A sliver of light appeared, faint and yellow. A figure stepped into it. He came down the stairs, not rushing, not hesitating, just calm. He wore a hood, dark clothes, boots. I couldn't see his face. He stood in the middle of the room for a moment, looking at me, or through me. I couldn't tell. Then he crouched next to me. I wanted to speak, to ask why, to plead, but nothing came out. I was too scared. He didn't say anything. He didn't touch me. He just stared for a few more seconds, then stood up and left. The door creaked shut behind him. The light disappeared. I was alone again. I cried. I sobbed into the concrete floor until my throat burned. I lost track of time again. I think I passed out. I might have woken up a few times. I don't remember dreams, just a floating numb feeling. At some point, he came back. I don't know how much later. Could have been the same day, or the next. He brought a bottle of water and a small pack of crackers. He untied my wrists. My hands ached. He watched as I drank and ate. Still no words. Then he tied me back up, tighter than before, and left again. That pattern repeated. I don't know how many times. Food, water, silence. I began to dread the sound of the door, just as much as the silence that followed. I started talking to myself, whispering my own name, humming songs I could barely remember, anything to not feel so alone. One day I found a small tile chip on the floor. I used it to scratch lines into the concrete, one for each time I was fed. That became my way of counting days. I think I marked 12, but I might have missed some, or imagined others. Sometimes I heard sounds above me, music, footsteps, once a phone ringing. That meant someone else was up there, not just him. Someone who could help, but no one ever came down. My body got weaker. My wrists were cut up. My skin itched. I barely slept. I started having dreams while I was still awake. Hallucinations, maybe. I thought I saw a bird once flying in the dark, but there was nothing there. Then, one night, nothing happened. No footsteps, no light, no food. I waited, but he didn't come. That scared me more than anything else. Something had changed. I stayed awake. I had no plan, but I felt different. Angry, maybe. Ready. I didn't feel brave, just done. Done waiting. Done being quiet. When he finally came back, it was different. He was slower. Maybe tired. Maybe overconfident. I don't know. He crouched like he always did. I didn't wait. I lunged forward and bit him. Hard. Wherever my mouth landed, I sank my teeth in. He yelled. I twisted. He fell back, and I started crawling. My legs were still tied, but I didn't care. I scraped my knees and elbows on the floor. He tried to grab me. I kicked. He cursed. I screamed, louder than I ever had. My throat tore from the force of it. Then I saw it. A door. Open. Just a little. Light poured through the gap. It wasn't far. I dragged myself toward it. Everything hurt. My arms felt like jelly, but I moved. I reached the door. I crawled through it. I saw grass, night sky, trees. Then I collapsed. I remember someone shouting. A woman, I think. Then sirens. Someone held my hand. I was wrapped in a blanket. People were everywhere. I was safe, but my mind was still down there, in that basement. The cold, the silence, the waiting. Even now, when I close my eyes, I'm back there, counting tiles, listening for footsteps, watching the light under the door. It's hard to explain what that kind of fear does to you. It doesn't go away. It just sinks in, deep, quiet, like a second skin. I escaped, but part of me never left. They told me I was lucky, that most people in my situation don't make it out, that I was strong, brave, a fighter. I didn't feel lucky. I didn't feel brave. I felt broken. The hospital lights were too bright. The sheets were too white. Everything felt artificial. My body ached. My throat was sore. I could barely move without pain. I slept only in small stretches. I kept waking up, panicked, gasping for air. Doctors checked my vitals. Nurses changed my IVs. Social workers brought papers. The police came. Everyone was talking, writing, evaluating. But no one knew how to answer the only question I kept asking myself. What now? I gave them my statement. I told them about the basement, about the man. I described his clothes, his voice, or lack of one. The way he watched me without speaking. The routine he had. I told them about the music I heard, the phone upstairs, the faint scent of cigarette smoke. I told them everything I remembered. They took notes, nodded, promised to investigate, promised justice, but there wasn't much to go on. No fingerprints, no DNA. The basement was clean. He wore gloves. He didn't leave a trace. A week later, they found the house, a rental on the outskirts of town. The basement matched my description exactly. Cracked concrete, mold on the walls, a small window covered with metal bars. But the man was gone. The place was abandoned. He had left no ID, no digital history. He was a ghost. After I was released from the hospital, I went to live with my sister. She lived 2 towns over. Her house had fences and porch lights and cameras at the door. She gave me the guest room. She made tea in the evenings and sat with me while I stared out the window. She didn't ask questions. She didn't force me to talk. She just stayed nearby. I appreciated that more than anything. But the nights were the worst. Every small sound felt like a threat. Every creak in the floorboards made my heart jump. I kept seeing shadows that weren't there. I slept with the light on. I couldn't close the door. I started therapy. Once a week. My therapist was calm, patient. She let me take my time. Some sessions, I barely said a word. Other times, I talked nonstop. I told her I didn't feel real anymore, that I had come back, but something inside me hadn't. I avoided mirrors. I didn't recognize the person looking back. My eyes looked dull, my skin pale. I lost weight. I forgot to eat sometimes. I couldn't focus. Reading was impossible. Even watching TV felt like too much. I tried going outside, just to the mailbox. But my knees buckled. I panicked. I rushed back in and locked the door. I cried on the floor until my sister found me. People kept saying I was brave, but I didn't feel brave. I felt like I was surviving second by second, like I was walking a tightrope between collapse and numbness. Then the letter came. No return address. Just a plain envelope slipped under the front door. Inside was a photograph. Me, taken recently, outside my sister's house. I was walking to the mailbox. On the back, written in neat, clean handwriting, "I'm still here." My hands shook. My chest tightened. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I dropped the photo and ran to my sister. She called the police. They came fast, searched the yard, looked at the footage from the door camera. There was nothing. No one saw anything. The camera glitched that morning. Of course it did. The officers took the envelope, promised they'd investigate. But again, there were no prints, no clues. They told me it could be a hoax, someone who heard my story, someone playing a sick joke. But I knew. I didn't need proof. I knew it was him. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in a chair by the front window, holding a kitchen knife in my lap. Every car that passed made me flinch. Every gust of wind made me tense up. The next day, I started packing. Within a week, I was gone. I moved out of state, changed my name, got a new phone, cut ties with old friends. I told only a handful of people where I was going. I deleted my social media. I erased myself. But I didn't feel safe. Not really. I moved into a small apartment on the third floor of a building with a locked entry and security cameras. I got a dog, a big one. He barked at every noise, and somehow that helped. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was watching, waiting. Every time I left the apartment, I scanned the street. Every time I came home, I checked the closets. I slept with a flashlight and my phone in my hand. I told myself I was being careful, smart, not paranoid. But the line blurred. A year passed. I started writing. At first, just in a notebook, then longer entries. Memories, dreams, what ifs. My therapist said it was good, that I needed to reclaim the story, take ownership of it. So I wrote everything. I wrote about the basement, about the silence, about the man with no name. I wrote about waking up screaming, about the letter, about leaving everything behind. And still, it's every night before bed, I checked the locks 3 times. Because I knew he was still out there. I tried to disappear. I really did. New name, new place, new life. I kept my head down. I didn't speak to strangers. I didn't post online. I didn't tell anyone where I had gone, not even people I trusted. I vanished in every way a person can without dying. And for a while, it worked. I got a job at a bookstore. Quiet, predictable, no night shifts. I rented a small apartment above a bakery. The scent of bread in the morning made things feel normal, safe. I got used to locking the door 3 times, to checking the windows before bed. I even started sleeping again. Deep, dreamless sleep. But it never really left me. The feeling that I was being watched. The thought that he might be out there, waiting. I told myself I was paranoid. That trauma leaves shadows. That he couldn't find me. Not this time. Then one night, I came home and found the front door slightly open. My stomach dropped. I stood frozen in the hallway, grocery bag in one hand, keys in the other. I hadn't left it open. I never left it open. I stepped inside. Everything looked normal. Couch, lamp, coffee mug from that morning still on the table. Nothing moved. Nothing broken. But something felt wrong. I backed out, got into my car, drove 3 blocks away, and called the police. They came, searched the place. No signs of forced entry, nothing stolen. They told me maybe I'd forgotten. Maybe the wind pushed it. Maybe. I knew better. The next morning, I found a note taped to my bathroom mirror. No envelope, just a piece of lined paper. It said, "You looked peaceful when you slept." I couldn't breathe. My legs gave out. I collapsed on the tile floor. He had been inside. While I was sleeping, he had been there. I left the apartment that day, left everything, took only what I could carry. I didn't go to work, didn't tell anyone. I drove until I ran out of gas, then kept going. A bus, a motel, another town. But running didn't change anything. I was just tired in different places. I was afraid behind new locks. I jumped at different shadows. I called the detective once, from a payphone, told him I had received another message. He asked for details. I told him everything. He said they'd look into it. I never heard back. Then I stopped calling, stopped hoping, started preparing. I bought a gun, took lessons, learned how to shoot. I got stronger, stopped waiting to be rescued. I started walking differently, head up, eyes sharp, and I waited. He always came back. That's what they do. People like him. One morning, I woke up to a sound. Software, almost nothing. But I knew. I got out of bed, slow and silent. I took the gun from the drawer. I checked the hallway. Nothing. I checked the kitchen. He was there, just standing, like he belonged. Same jacket, same boots, face half in shadow. But this time, I saw his eyes, and he saw mine. He smiled. I didn't wait. I raised the gun and shot. The sound was deafening. My ears rang. He stumbled back, hand to his chest. Blood bloomed across his shirt. He tried to move. I shot again. He collapsed. I stood there for a long time, gun shaking in my hand, breathing hard, watching the blood pool around him, waiting for him to get back up. He didn't. I called the police, told them everything. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. My voice was steady. They came. They saw. They took the body, took statements, took photos. They told me I was brave, that it was over. But it didn't feel over. I moved again. Farther this time. Different coast. Changed my name one more time. People asked what happened. I told them I had survived something, that I had fought back. But I didn't give details. I didn't say his name, because I never knew it. And now, it doesn't matter, because I won. But survival isn't the end of the story. Not really. It's the beginning of another. One where fear doesn't just vanish. It evolves. It hides in the corners of a quiet room. It shows up in dreams. It lingers in the spaces between footsteps at night. I still check locks 3 times. I still keep a flashlight by my bed. I still sit with my back to the wall in restaurants. I still scan every crowd. Not because I think he'll come back, but because I know someone else might. I write now. I speak to others who've survived. I tell my story when I can. Not all of it, but enough. Enough so people know what it's like. Enough so someone out there feels less alone. Because survival is lonely, even when you're safe. Especially when you're safe. I am not the same person I was before. That version of me, she didn't make it out. But the woman who did, she's still here, still fighting, still counting. But for different things now. For peace, for silence, for the life I still deserve. And when I wake up in the middle of the night, heart racing, body frozen in fear, I remind myself of one truth. He's gone. I'm not, and that matters.